So, ladies and gentlemen, take two of the interview with Rachel Pringle. Hello, my gorgeous.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm
Always.
so happy that you decided to do this again with me. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And the reason why I am so excited to bring you to my audience is especially because of the effect that you had on my transformation and on my life in this year particularly. And I think that you actually represent like the perfect goddess, like, the embodiment of the pure goddesses in this planet. And I feel like you have this something that it's like very rare to find, that like authenticity that it's deeper than, I don't know. I feel like in this lifetime we are all authentic, but it's like surface level authentic. And for you, I feel like it's that, I don't know, really coming from a heart, and it's something I really resonate with you.
Mm.
And I'm so happy to have you here. And I want to say that the first thing that I want to start with is definitely, we're going to title this as a wild woman, of course. So I want to know, what's your definition of wild woman?
It's beautiful. My definition is a wild woman is someone who is deeply connected to all of the moments that exist. So the earthly plane, the spiritual plane, the emotional plane, the physical plane.
Mm.
So a woman who's in tune with what is happening and can be in the process of continuously liberating herself moment to moment. And that plays into this aspect of learning how to be responsibly wild. So
Mm.
for me, I think this can get lost in translation at times, especially in the spiritual community. I believe that a wild woman, when she's responsibly wild, she is empowering others. She's liberating others. She is a permission slip for others. When you're in her presence, you feel in your highest expression,
Mm.
and it's not a dominant aspect. It's a it's an indication that we are all free.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I think you are representing this really well. And I have to say, I didn't even introduce you properly, but I'll do this in the intro. So, like, then I get more prepared and I can read. But anyway, so now people know because they heard the intro. So you are deeply passionate to help women embrace this wild woman within themselves. And what was your journey to come to this stage where you are right now?
Mm. Yeah, it tags into being responsibly wild. You know, when I was at a young age, I was always very in tuned with my own power. I would say
Mm.
probably like 13, 14, 15, maybe even younger. I was aware of this energy and essence that could create a ripple effect in others. And the older that I got, in the experimentation around sex and freedom and expression and exploration, I definitely created some destruction in my path.
Mhm.
And I think that that's important for all of us. It's part of the process of getting older, to make mistakes. And I recognize there was a period of time where I I shut myself down, especially sexually. I shut down my power, which for me, in my understanding and my teaching, is our sensual and sexual power, creative energy. And so when I moved to LA when I was 26, I was painstakingly aware that I wasn't channeling that divine feminine energy. I was actually scared of it. And
Mm.
so I went on a deep journey. I'd already been in my spiritual journey for 8 years before that. And I realized in the process of that if I'm feeling this way, and I'm a really confident, empowered, embodied woman already, then there has to be literally millions of other people that are feeling like this. And so and I'm aware that my human design and the way that I work as a being in the world is, I try all of these different modalities, and then in order to fully lock them into my being, I teach them. That's part of why I'm here. So anything I get that I feel works, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to share it, because really and truly, if we want to be free, others have to be free as well.
Yeah.
So I was aware of that, and I was also around embodied women for the first time, really, I think, who were consciously holding that energy. And it was the permission slip of like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. And so I need to fully stand in my embodied presence in order to show other women that it is possible, that it is enjoyable, and it's not going to lead to destruction. Because I really believe that most women and men, because of our upbringing, because of the mistakes and the different paths that we go down, we tend to associate our sensual, sexual, creative power with destruction. And so we want to temper it, we want to suppress it and depress it and repress it. And in order for, you know, the raising of the consciousness of the planet, we all really need to tap into that innate power. I hope that answered the
That's so
question.
powerful. Yeah, that's so powerful. I feel like for me personally, I definitely connect to that good girl. Like that was my identity my whole life. And expressing sexual power and owning it and allowing it, it was like danger, you know? And it was definitely very hard to do the transition in my head first and then slowly in my life. And it's still like a huge challenge for me, I would say, because yeah, like it's just, yeah, like I think we are just taught, and it definitely is influenced by the way you are raised. And I know you were raised in a very open family, so would you share something about this?
I mean, it's like good girl, and I'm like, even that's, I think that's such a beautiful thing to bring up. Is I'm so blessed, as you said, I have the most incredible parents. I was raised in such a free and liberated environment, especially around sex and sexuality, and I'm so deeply grateful for that. My parents are exquisite beings, and I still went through that same exact process. And I think that that is just a core part of society and programming, is what we see in media, what we read in books, what we watch in movies, etc. All of these things are teaching us that if you aren't a good girl, if you don't look a certain way, act a certain way, you're never going to get married and you're never going to be happy. And it's such a insane falsity. And what it brings up for me while you're speaking is like, that was the polarities that I played in, right? Is there was this aspect of me that was the bad girl and was using my power, my sexual and sensual power to get what I wanted, basically. And then the other aspect of me that was like the good girl. And I think that the reason why this happens, the destruction, is because we're so repressed by the good girl aspect. And the process of doing the work that I do now is really combining and merging the two, and realizing that the darkness and the light are best friends. They need to be intertwined. And it's, I think the good girl, you know, myth is asking us to deeply inquire within, because when we start to look at that shadow aspect of ourselves and we start to speak to our friends and our partners, we realize that this is all coming from what I would say, from my perspective, a very strict religious expression where, you know, sex is deemed sinful and bad. And the only reason why it's been deemed bad and sinful is because it's that powerful. You know, and that is the aspect of learning how to be responsibly wild, because when you tap into your radiance as a woman or your presence as a man, that can literally, you know, alter the energy of a room. It is that powerful. And so if you're using it in a irresponsible manner, it can create destruction, which is, I think, what religion was trying to do, and they just went overboard, right? And so we're from the moment we enter this world, we're like, I need to fit into this box to be good and to go to heaven, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start to inquire deeper within, we realize that heaven is here on earth and hell is here on earth. And the hell can really start to manifest itself when we play into a role that is not authentic to who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are literally in a self-made prison.
Yeah. Wow. That's on point. And that's one of the things that I like about you is that you really are for combining this, polarities. And if you look at the whole personal development industry, there's so much happening around positive thinking and motivation and how we should be like blah, 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 blah. And like, it's just actually changing the beliefs that we have and putting ourselves in a different box. It's still a box.
Yes.
So what are some of the techniques or practices that you use for actually allowing both polarities to exist within you?
Mm, I love that. I love that explanation because it's so true and real. I think the aspect of positive thinking is really a real thing. And what's behind that, and what I think comes first and foremost that a lot of people miss in the spiritual community, is the aspect of being the witness.
Mm,
That is when all of your, from my perspective, true powers come online, because you are becoming deeply intimate with self. So you're watching what is happening. And when you start to witness and observe and watch the thoughts, you start to recognize that there are patterns. There are
mm,
patterns that connect to and create this good girl persona, or connect and create to this bitch persona, or whatever it is. And you start to really understand that you're playing out a habitual expression. And so all the techniques that I use are pattern interrupts. So movement, I feel, is one of the most powerful things that we can do in the world, because it's not enough, like in tantric understandings, we can't understand tantra theoretically. We can, in a sense, we think we can, we're like, I understand this concept, but until you experience it in your body, then you have the visceral feeling, and it's like there's a light bulb that goes on and you're like, oh, this is what it is. So in the ancient tantric texts, when Devi is talking to Shiva, it's like it's all about technique. And so the techniques that I always use are shaking, dancing, moving, breathing, using your voice. I think that using our voice is one of the most understated, um, overlooked things in the community. There's people who are using activate your voice to sing, and I'm like, just activate your voice to express what's happening. The darkness that arises wants a voice too. And that's why you see me all over the internet being like, because it's like, it's so, I got into this place now where I feel so free in that expression. And it's like, I just want people to know that your darkness, that like ugly, gross, nasty state, actually is also beautiful when it's expressed in its fullness. It's so fucking freeing and activating to feel an energy that is trapped in your shoulder or your neck or your hips or your toes or your belly button or your stomach or your heart, and bring it out and express it through the body and with your sound. And then you become an equal participant in what's happening, versus submitting to and feeling like you're not a part of the process, when you are the process.
yeah. Wow. I have to actually say, like, the voice releasement and everything, because I've done a lot of your practices. Um, and I've been now very conscious because I used to have a lot of like sore throat and stuff like that. And I've been now very conscious, like as soon as I see that there's something stuck in here, I'm like, I'm gonna let it out. It's like I'm not waiting, like not even a minute longer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been so much better. Like I literally like don't have any issues anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have to say, I also have to say that on some of the things that I was doing, like with your practice, it was like I had the vomiting effect. And that was twice that I actually did. vomit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, for me, it was, I know I could hold back, like my ego self could be like, now it's enough, like go back. But at that point, I just felt like there's been so much of the pain coming up that I knew, like, if I swallow that back in, I'm gonna be screwed. It's like I was just like, okay, let it out. And yeah, that's been so powerful. And like you said, you cannot really, like, you can read about it, but you won't have the same grasp of what it actually does for you when you actually practice it and you use your whole body for it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's very
and
powerful.
I love that you said that. I think that's an important thing to realize, is like our body is holding so much. And
Mm-hmm.
so these aspects of screaming, vomiting, it's a purging and releasing of stuff that has probably been trapped in our body for years, if not
Yeah.
lifetimes, carried down from our mothers and our fathers and our grandmothers and great grandmothers and all of this stuff. And it's like, we're so scared of being out of control. We're absolutely terrified of being out of
Mm-hmm.
control. And when we learn to surrender that control and let our body do its thing, it's like, it's an incredibly cathartic experience. You're just like, oh, this is what it feels like to just fucking let go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's funny because I've done a lot of healings before, and like I'm an energy healer as well. Um, but all the techniques that I've been using before have been like on the energetic field and cleansing that shit out, which is also very beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
However, I didn't include my body until this year. And it's so interesting how this results is actually like influencing my health, because I feel like now that I'm like using my body, doing all the exercises with the body, and then of course doing the energy healings as well, but it's kind of like a combination. I feel like my body is not it's not like, I feel like before, after doing the energy healing, it would be, then my body had to adjust on the new energy by itself, and it could take a month or something.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just like I help my body get rid of all the shit, so the body can get like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing, really.
It's I again, like, everything that you're saying is so on point, because there is so much that happens in the energetic realm. Like, that is a real and powerful and absolutely potent, profound space to be in. And I think sort of a thing that happens again in the spiritual community is people put all of their focus on that, and they forget about their body. And really, you want to combine the two. You want them to work in tandem, because when your body is fully online, and when it's fully open, and when your energy is free, then working in energy space is like triple the freaking power. I mean, if not 100 the power. And so it's really, I'll never forget this. When I first moved to LA, and I went to this really beautiful, like, sharing circle community expression. And there was this really young girl. She must have been like 17 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember her saying, she was like, all of us are so focused on getting out, like ascending, 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 and for forgetting that we're here in this physical body right now. And that, I took that, and that was really the beginning of everything that I created, because I was like, that makes the most sense. Like, we are in this physical body. Yes, we're infinite beings, and we know this on an intuitive level, and that will live forever, and it's beautiful. And if we forget about the house, the vessel, the channel, then it gets convoluted, and then spirit has to jump through all these fucking hoops to express. And when you work in tandem, then that's just a clear channel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so on point. And
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, I had like situations in my life where I've been too much in like energetic fields, and I feel like if you start forgetting about the body, then you start forgetting about the action,
Mm.
and you're just like, I'm just gonna manifest it, and you get lazy and you
My
don't do
God.
shit and you just get terrible. And yeah, like I feel like balancing out, I don't really think that I'm good at balancing at one point, but it's like, going in one extreme and another extreme and just doing like the swings all the time. But having that alarm within you when you spot like, hey, I've been too into energetic field, or I've been too much into just being in a body. I forgot about like the energy and stuff like that. I feel like this is really important. What are your experience about that?
I mean, massively important. I think that so many of us are extreme beings. We like to swing the pendulum, and I've certainly done that. I've gone all the way to both sides, and I think that the balance is really the key that we're all searching for. And that, I mean, you've heard me say this in all of my courses. I don't believe in rigidity. And I believe that rigidity is another box that we put ourselves in. It's like, oh, I'm going to do this practice for this amount of time, and everything is like this. And it's like, no, you're not free and open to receiving the universe's magic in every moment. And I think it's really about creating everything as ritual and everything as ceremony, and learning how to combine the mental energetic realm with the physical action. Like you said, I think that's massively important, is because we are creative beings, we are creators, we are creating our life. And so it's not enough to just think about it, we must move in the action of it. And when we do that, the universe is works alongside of us. It's like, oh, you're ready, okay, here's the thing. And that's how it happens. And it's such an interesting balance, because structure is so important for us. Human beings live for structure. If we didn't have structure, we would all go insane, unless we were to really deepen into our spiritual practice. But aligning ourselves with daily structure, I think, is huge. Like, I wake up and I practice every day. That's the most important thing to me in the world. I will miss practice maybe like twice a year if I'm on an airplane where I've woken up at 4 a.m, but I will find a way to 5, 7, 30 minutes, an hour. Sometimes I'll do 3 hours, but that is my emotional touchstone to remember who it is that I am. So I think creating that structure, same with moving my body. I don't work out or do things in order to like keep my body like fit or whatever. I do it to keep my channel strong. And there's a difference, and I think that's important as women. I think we've all had our experiences around our body, and I was really obsessed with, being skinny in the modeling industry for years. And the moment that I switched over to allowing my channel to be strong, it changed my relationship with that energy. And so now it's an enjoyable thing. I'm going to go for a hike, I'm going to lift some weights, I'm going to work out, creating those structures in your day that support our mental health, really and truly. And also, I think the aspect of what's happening in the world right now is, it's so important to be aware of what we're taking in consciously. There's so much energy happening, and there's an aspect of what's happening in social media that feels as if if we don't know what's happening every single moment, that we're not in it. And it's like, we have to remember that there was a time when internet didn't exist and everyone was totally fine. So it's like switching those habits, right, to support the energy of creation. Right? So our aspect wants balance. Even, there's going to be days where you practice every day for an hour and you feel amazing. And then there's going to be a week where you practice 7 minutes every day, and that's okay. That's just as good. The consistency is what is key, right? And finding what for you is the consistent thing that returns you home over and over again.
Wow.
Hopefully that answered the question.
It definitely does. And this reminded me of, I remember in one of our courses that we did, you did the you mentioned something, it was among like pretty much the same thing that you already said, but it was like regarding the structure, that, I think it was a mirror work that we did or something like this, when you said like set the timer within which you can flow. And that like shifted everything for me in life, because it was like, for me it was like, okay, feminine energy, I'm gonna flow, I'm la 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 la, I'm not gonna do anything, I'm not gonna structure anything because whatever. And then you said this and I was like, okay, I can like set the timer for half an hour to flow with my body. And it's within the structure, it doesn't need to be, because if I don't set a timer, then I'm like bored after 5 minutes and I'm like, bah, I'm done. So that was like a powerful one that I really want to share with people. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and it's really been a lifesaver, and it's something that it's one of the strongest things that I actually teach, because when women are getting into this work, the primary like reason is they want to be in their divine feminine. And
Mm-hmm.
so there is this sort of misconception that I just need to be in flow all the time. And what is really needed is the balance of divine feminine and sacred masculine. And the sacred masculine is the structure, like exactly what you said. When you put a timer for 30 minutes, you basically set the sacred masculine container that holds you so that you can be completely free in your expression. And when you don't set a timer or in something in that realm, then you're so flowy that you have no edge to bounce off of, and then you kind of get lost in it. And so, I'm incredibly organized, but I'm incredibly organized so that I can be in deep, profound states of relaxation as often as I possibly can, which is primarily the majority of the time. That's my practice, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if I set up those moments, okay, I know I'm going to do my practice, and then I'm going to do this amount of work for this time, and then I can go on my 2-hour hike and receive all the downloads for the next da 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 da. And it feels like flow, because we've created the stage for flow to exist.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's powerful. Nice. I like it. I like
Yes.
it. Um, okay, the topic that I also want to cover is, of course, the relationships, because I think that you and your husband are really doing an amazing job in it. Um, and you've been, what, together for 7 years?
Almost 8 years.
Almost eight. Okay. And yeah, like one thing that I'm like, for me personally, and I think a lot of women can relate, is I feel like every single time I'm in a relationship, um, I will lose myself.
Mm.
It's like I can totally take their dreams as my dream and be like, oh, I'm gonna help you with everything. It's fine. Like, yeah, I have time. It's okay. And like, I feel like, yeah, probably because I never had like a really strong ground of where I stand, but I still feel like in general, women are tend to please and tend to put men first. And I like I caught somewhere that you also had an experience like this in the beginning or somewhere. So yeah, please let us know how you dealt with that and how you overcame.
Most definitely. I mean, I think that all of us have that experience, right? Because we are love incarnate. We are the energy of love. And when we find a being that we love, we it is our like innate instinct to pour our love into that being. That is the desire. And that is what I do in my partnership. But the switch that I made is that the person that comes first always is me. I'm
Mm.
always, always, always number one. And he is also number one. It's not like he's number two, but he is a result of my overflow.
Got
So, and I think that's it's just important to have that experience. It's like the same as when we're kids, we have to sort of make those mistakes to understand what it feels like to have that contrast. And I've definitely gone through that many different expressions of it with Johan, especially actually creatively, where he's a profound meditation and breathwork teacher, and we've been talking about doing something together for a long time. And he is a different like human design than me. I am, when I get an idea, I'm just like, okay, I'm doing it and it's done. And I just decide that I'm doing it. And he works on a different, slower pace. And I had a tendency for a long time, for years, to sort of wait for him. And that grew into resentment. And that taught me that what is needed for me and for our dynamic is for me to take the initiative and do it. And as soon as I do it, he immediately steps up. So I use that as a barometer, right? In the same, when I'm coaching, is like, so many women are saying, I want my partner to open. I want my partner to open. And if you are saying, I want my partner to open, it's a direct and immediate reflection that you need to open, because we are really the leaders in that container. And so if we're leading with, you come before me, they're going to be in that energy, right? So if we're teaching that our individuality comes first, then we overflow into each other, that's what happens. And the thing that's most attractive, I think, to the majority of us is that interdependent lifestyles. Like when we want to be with people who are self-sufficient, who are independent, but also create connection and intimacy, but have their own thing going on. And it's such a natural progression for when you get in relationship to just be like, vzz, and then lose that aspect. But it's sort of like you're always doing this. You're always moving into that aspect. And it can feel uncomfortable for us as women because we are so innately loving. Yeah. And it's about, this balance is about learning the different languages and expressions and energies of love. When you're taking care of yourself, you are loving your partner.
That's beautiful. This reminded me of the story that I read in Women That Are Running with Wolves. There is like that, I don't know the exact story, but it's like the dynamic of like life in relationships. And that's something that, like, honestly, I feel like I never accepted in relationships. And it's like, as a woman, like when I would see that maybe my man was getting distant, or I didn't get like, the same kind of love or whatever, I would get like needy and being like, what's wrong? What's happening? How can I change it? What should I do? And I'm really aware that this energy is not really attractive, but it's like, it's a subconscious program that we all have within us. And how can we break free from this pattern? Like, what would you say?
It's such a good question. It's actually similar to, the good girl thing, is that we are so deeply programmed and conditioned from everywhere that relationship looks like this. A perfect relationship is, you never fight. You're always on the same page. You're, all of these things, you're never attracted to anyone else. You're only you're like all of these things, right? That are that exist in movies and in books and everywhere. And it's not real. It's not a reality. It is a complete and utter illusion. And all of these movies are like, we fall in love, we get married, and the story is over. It's like, no, you get married, and then the real work starts. And I think that the aspect of this that we really want to get on board with is learning that relationship is healing. Relationship is deep, profound healing. Yes, there is deep, profound love, and the love only enhances when you're willing to go into that healing space. And the healing space comes from the death and rebirth cycle. And we go through that ourselves all the time, every month. And so how can we think that that's not going to exist in our partnership, And so when something bad happens, we're like, something's wrong in the relationship. And it's like, no, this is just an edge that we're coming up against to expand us, so that there's more space for love, so
Yeah.
it's learning how to read the energies and to be able to come forth. I really resonate with the needy thing. I think everyone
Mhm.
does. We've all been in that position. And it's about learning how to use conscious communication to traverse those periods and moments of uncertainty and, um, you know, adversity that feels like, oh, this is over. It's like, no, this is just a portal into a new space.
Yeah. How would you say, like, for example, if a couple has a situation where it's really tense and there is, like, let's say a woman is in her needy or anxious attachment system being activated, and then avoidant being activated, being like, I'm gonna run away. Like, I had a situation with one of my clients that had like that kind of a dynamic, and it was like a question that they also asked me to ask you was yeah, I did a little, I
Good.
asked people this time, was to yeah, how can you, from a woman perspective, how, what she could do to kind of get that fire back in the relationship, because of course it's also manifesting in sex life and everything. So how could they get back into this, especially during quarantine? Let's not forget about that.
It's such a it's an amazing question. I think that there's layers to it. The first layer being become aware of your patterns. That's like going back to what I said before. I think the most powerful thing that we can do as beings is become the observer, to witness our patterns. If you, as the anxious or the avoidant or the whatever, if you want to stay in that, then you're just going to have this experience over and over again. So become aware of your patterns. And if you recognize that you're playing out that pattern, then you can pattern interrupt. And that's what it's here for. This is, I'm going to go off on a tangent and then I'm going to come back.
Okay.
But we're in the spiritual community. We're all wanting healing, but let's go deeper into that. What do we really want? Do we want to heal, or do we want someone to just confirm our wounding? There's two different things, right? If you, well, I'm just an avoidant, well, I'm just an anxious, you're not fucking doing anything about changing it. And that's what relationship is about. It's about recognizing that there is a pattern, that I'm playing out this role, he's playing out this role, vice versa. And so what can I do that will shift this? And when you shift something, everything changes. It's scientific. That's what it is. Tantra is a scientific technique. So you have to make a physical, energetic, emotional shift, and then that will shift the container. And so, everyone who's in a relationship, reading all of these books, reading the attachment theory, reading conscious loving, reading all of these incredible, brilliant resources of knowledge to understand, and then practicing it with your partner. So if you are feeling anxious, what you're feeling, this is my interpretation from my perspective, what you're feeling is a massive sense of uncertainty and insecurity, which is basically a loss of self, a loss of connection to self. So as an anxious woman, I would say that the most important thing is to start to take that energy and really cultivate your own practice. Cultivate the thing that is going to allow you to feel secure in your connection to yourself. And that will automatically change. That means doing your breath work, doing your voice release, dancing, going off and doing things on your own, going and being with your girlfriends, going on a solo, experience, enjoying and cultivating your own hobbies that light you up in your passion. That will be attractive to an avoidant. And for a man, notice that you are an avoidant. Notice like that you are shying away from intimacy. So if
Mm.
you, what an avoidant really, really wants is deep, profound love. And they're scared of it because they're afraid if they surrender into it, it will go away. So they avoid it. So it's understanding those patterns, right? Okay, this is my pattern. We're in this great place, and then I'm going to create this thing to fuck it all up because I'm afraid of fully going into that. And my husband Johan is a like full avoidant. He is that, and I'm actually secure because I'm blessed enough to be raised by incredible parents, and I'm so lucky. And through our partnership, Johan becomes more and more and more secure. He still has his avoidant tendencies, but now he's aware of them, so he can notice, oh, in this moment, we had a moment that arose when we were in Europe where we're in the most profound love bubble, and he did something, and I was like, you just hit an upper limiting. I was like, you did that because you're afraid of this connection. And he was like, oh, you're right. And then it switches, right? So it's not enough to just know what your thing is. That once you know, then you start to take action. You use the technique, you break the pattern, and you go towards what everyone wants, which is love, and to be loved and to be seen and received. Every human on the entire motherfucking planet wants that.
Yeah. It's so simple. The
Yeah.
end. But
But
yeah, I know. Yeah, it's definitely like one thing that I feel has been very active for me in this year as well is like just like um the whole relationship, like masculine and feminine, the way it's been through history and how we are used to getting like, basically what's the word that I'm using, but
to go into.
no, we just English. um like we have like the women have a tendency to just belittle ourselves,
Oh yes, to
and
play small.
yeah, and then like with the guys I feel like it's also like with the whole patriarchy and everything that was happening, it's just it's not they're doing it consciously, it's just like that it's present and it's there, and like I definitely found that within my body, like if I'm present next to the masculine energy, I will immediately like I'm shutting myself off way more than I am like when that's not around. um so yeah, what do you think it's needed for this balance to shift in the
Mm.
world?
Well, I think that, I mean, it's such a good explanation and understanding because I think most people, most women feel like that, and I think that the understanding that we really need to merge fully with is the female energy is, there's nothing more powerful than that on the planet. It's really we create life, we create the world, we are creatrix, creation energy, and the masculine energy is holding the space. And so there's this programming that we've sort of bought into that's like the men are more powerful, and so we need to like sort of come to the background. But the real understanding is we're so powerful that I don't want to outshine them. That's really what we're doing on a subconscious level. Instead of starting to cultivate, harness, and understand that when we are in our responsibly empowered state, the men flourish.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They want that. They want to feel, because when we're in our, you know, full, like sensual, ecstatic state, that is literal energy for them. That allows their conscious container to grow bigger. So I think the most important thing for us to realize is that that is a reality, and not every man, is going to buy into that, because they're also completely afraid of our power because they know how powerful it is.
Yeah.
And when we deepen continuously into our power, the men who want it, which is a lot of men, will rise to the surface, and then we will really be working in tandem with each other, which is what we're designed for. I don't believe it's one over the other. I believe that we lead men into leading. We want their leadership, but from a devotional, loving, present, powerful state. And that comes from us showing them what that looks like.
Mm.
Right? So it's it always comes back to, for me, is cultivating our own sense of being, our own sense of connection to ourselves, our own sense of sisterhood, also connecting with other males, and showing that we are that multidimensional being, that we're not afraid, that we're willing to make mistakes, that we're willing to grow and expand, and that automatically shows them that they can do that.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. One more thing regarding the relationships. When, like, it's stupid to be in a relationship and pretend, like you said, that you're never going to be attracted to anyone else. So if we know this, how can we actually, like, implement this in a relationship, in monogamous relationship, and be okay with, like, bringing it up, talking about it, whatever? Like, what's the dynamic that you guys have around this topic? Because it's going to be present for the rest of our lives, probably.
Yes. I think, again, the understanding, right, is we are animalistic primal beings. We just are that. And we are also beings that desire. That's how we continue to move and grow, is we are in tune with our desires. And so people light us up. A beautiful woman also lights us up, you know, beautiful man. And so it's really understanding that that is just an ignition for us, and then bringing it into partnership. When you can talk about it, when you can look at a beautiful woman or a beautiful man and say, wow, that woman's gorgeous, and be in on it together, there is a bond that is created, that it is okay to acknowledge attraction and desire. And so the thing that really sort of trips us up is we don't talk about it with our partners, and then we have a desire for another person, and then we're not allowed to speak about it, so it grows, and then we think, oh, well, if this is here, it means I shouldn't be in this relationship, and maybe I should be in this. And that's just not real. It's like, Johan and I are deeply, profoundly in love, and we are still attracted to other people, and we can still, look at other people, and we can still fantasize about other people, and it's okay, because that's what we do as beings. The moment that we think it's not okay is when it sort of starts to run havoc on your relationship. And then the next aspect I'll say for women is, if we feel jealousy, which is totally normal, and men feel this too, but I'm a woman, I'm speaking directly to it, is the times in the past where I have felt jealous has been an indication that I think this woman possesses something that I don't have. Right? So when I see that arise, I have shifted, pattern interrupted, to mean that she is igniting a part of me that could be more expressed. Right? So, like, in the past, when Johan and I went through a lot of our own stuff, he was desiring a more free and wild woman. And that was exactly what I was in the process of doing. And so when I was experiencing jealousy, it was they're in touch with that side, and I haven't quite gotten there yet. And so instead of being mad at her and mad at myself, I started to view her as an invitation to channel that within me.
Mm.
and channel my own version of it, not try to be like them,
Yeah.
but to use it as an ignition of, being more in my body, expressing more freedom, dressing more playfully, or whatever it is that comes forward, fully in line and in tune with how my unique expression is.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, I think this is definitely. I mean, it's one thing to talk about it and like really, then to bring it in the relationship, because I can already feel that it can be triggering. But yeah, I feel like definitely I had the same situation, like with jealousy or just like seeing other women and then being like, because like I used to believe that um, you have a certain qualities in life and that's it. You're born with it, and like I would say for myself that I've been very sexually suppressed. Even though I was able to be very bitchy, I had like that, like the bitchy wild self that wasn't really appropriate. And then I had the other part. But yeah, it would just like it would be normal for me, like, oh, I cannot be like that girl, like, oh, I cannot have this because I wasn't born with that. And I feel like you are basically, yeah, I don't know, I want to say the first person, but it's probably not the first person, but it's the first person that I trust you that it's possible to awake whatever I want to awake with me. I heard it before, but it's like I was like, yeah, whatever, it's easy for you. um and yeah, I really appreciate that about you, because I feel like now I feel like everything is possible.
Yes.
Whatever I need, it's like,
Ah,
okay, bring it on. Who can I channel today?
yes. I
Yeah.
mean, thank you so much for saying that, because that is the number one reason why I do what I do. Because
Mm.
I think also as a beautiful woman, we get projected on, oh, you're supposed to know exactly what you're doing sexually. You're supposed to know exactly everything. And it's like, I had no fucking idea what I was doing. No one taught me shit. So it's I really, really deeply desire, the most important message is to realize that we have been put into boxes, and the divine feminine that exists within all of us is literally infinite. We can be every single aspect. All it takes is a willingness to explore it.
Mm. Yeah. I saw one question that I had from people, which is with sex is like you have a lot of like, I mean, there's the interaction of energy and then you have other people's energy in your body and stuff like that. So do you have any recommendation for how to cleanse, like especially a woman, after like, having many partners and never think about that, and now all of a sudden like this is becoming a thing that we have to care about energy. Yeah, what are some of the ways that you would say that you can cleanse this energy through
Mm.
your body?
Such a good question. It's sort of like all in line with what we've been speaking about, is bringing that into an intentional space, that I'm here to clear this. And so I think
Mm.
an important question to ask ourselves in the beginning is, am I ready to clear this? Yes or no? If it's a no, why am I holding on to this, and who am I afraid to be if I let this go?
Mm.
Because we as human beings, we love to be in our suffering, because at least we know what it is. It's comfortable suffering. It's better than being in the complete unknown where everything is possible. So we have to be aware of that first and foremost to get clear. Okay, I'm ready. Then all of the things, breath work, voice release, sounding, and actively going into the thing, clearing out, Jimmy, John, Xavier, all these people, and going in and saying, I'm ready to release this from my being. And I said this on my course on Sundays, we are master healers. We all are. We all have this capability. What it takes is intention and attention. So if we create the space and we believe that we can clear it, then we can. and using the modalities of shaking the body. Shaking the body is one of the most profound things we can do. Using our voice to express what is stuck in our womb and in our pussy and in our cervix. And releasing the anger that we are holding from that interaction, and releasing the hope that we are holding from that interaction coming back, and cleansing, cleansing the body, taking a bath, purifying, and taking control of our body.
Nice. And what would you say to all the women out there that are being called too much and too sensitive and too emotional and like too needy or whatever? It's what would you say regarding that labeling of like just being a woman?
I'm going to say two things. I'm going to be a little bit controversial as well. Learn how to consciously communicate your emotions. This is a superpower, because the truth is our energy is so powerful. We can affect an entire room. And so when we can learn how to consciously communicate our emotions, we are free. Then we can experience the fullness of our emotional state, our anger, our rage, our shame, our guilt, our joy, our pleasure, our ecstatic bliss, all of it, because we are responsible in it.
Yeah.
So the too much tends to come from people who can't handle it. And a lot of people can't, because we've never been taught how to. So you can teach people how by the way that we communicate.
Yeah. And that also, I feel like it's direct reflection again, if you are approaching emotions through a victim state, or if you are really willing to heal and you just need to express the shit out of yourself. Because that's also, crucial. I'm definitely a person that's been in a victim state a lot. And I was and I was like also always like expressing my emotions, and it's been very destructive a lot of times.
It's when we are in our victim, we perpetuate the story of being too much. Because we are not in responsibility of what we're feeling, and we're blaming everyone else. It doesn't mean that they're not to blame. It's if your partner cheats on you, it that hurts, and they're partly in that. But you can also take full responsibility for yourself and how you react. And when we do that, we free ourselves from that construct, which is we're weak, and we have no control, and we're totally victims of everything that happens. And that's not empowering at all. Versus just saying, I'm witnessing a part of myself that is fucking pissed off at you. And I'm witnessing a part of me that is completely and absolutely devastated. And I know that there's a part of you that didn't blah blah blah. It's like, then we can, and if you need to rage, you don't have to rage at the person. Just go off on rage by yourself, so that you can actually communicate what it is that you actually feel. And then you can teach them, and then they can grow, and then you can both grow. But I think that I'm grateful for that question, because from my perspective, there is a lot of that in the spiritual community, that a lot of people think divine feminine is I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, and you have to accept me as I am. And I do not believe that. I think that is a dangerous, dangerous way to be. And when we can take responsibility for who we are in every single moment, 100%, you are fucking free.
Yeah, that's amazing. And there is one question that is popping in my head because people that are going to listen to this are probably questioning, what's your human design? Because you mentioned it twice.
I'm a manifesting generator, and I'm a
Mhm.
3/5. So
Okay.
3/5 energy
I
is
was,
really, yeah, trial and error and sharing and teacher and whatnot. And I think all of these beautiful, amazing, modalities out there help us understand. Like, I know that that's how I am. I know that that's why I do what I do. As soon as I get something, I'm like, oh my god, I gotta tell everyone about this thing.
yeah, I can totally imagine. I'm a projector. I'm like,
Ooh, yes.
I'm just sitting here waiting for invitation. And like sometimes I also invite myself, but it's like I really like ever since I've dived deep into it and structure my whole business around it. It's perfect because it's definitely how I operate.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm more into gene keys lately.
Yeah,
It's like
same.
obsession.
But that's the pattern interrupt, right? Like that's what that is these modalities help us realize our sort of like gene makeup and help us work with it versus
Yeah,
working against it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we need all of this. Okay, do you have any last message that you want to share with our audience?
Mm. I mean, the last message I always say to everyone is learn, how to be your own best friend. Learn how to be deeply intimate with self. Learn how to not be scared of any part of yourself. That's where all of the magic lies. It's within us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you
was
so
super
much.
beneficial for me, and I'm 100% sure that people are going to love it. So, thank you so much. And
It's my
keep
pleasure.
shining your light
You too.
and keep showing us that it's possible. We need
Thank
this.
you, my love.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.